Hello, thanks for joining us. Welcome to the Strategic Pause. My name is Jill Parish, and this here is my partner. What's your name, partner?
Katrina Kennedy. So happy to be
Katrina
here with you today.
Kennedy. And this, fellow friends, is our last episode of our first season. So we are going to take a brief podcast break, and then we are going to kick off with a new season. So we're very excited. We're very excited. This is episode 12. Did I get that right? Episode 12. And we have decided to wrap up this season with a reflection episode because somebody we know and love wrote a book that is around reflection techniques. And so, with that said, my fellow host is going to lead me, apparently, and us, because I want your reflections too, through reflection exercises about our podcast. So, Katrina, I am turning it. You have full authority to ask me whatever.
That is some authority. I'm a little intimidated.
It's big. You should be, probably.
How much do you love that the strategic pause is going to take a strategic pause?
I love
that so much. But before that strategic pause, we're going to pause for reflection.
Wow, it's a lot of pausing. I love it. I love it.
It is a lot of pausing. It is a lot of pausing. It's amazing we get anything done
with all of the pauses that we take.
But they are strategic, right?
They are strategic. They are. And we could talk about what we're going to do during those strategic pauses, but that would be less about reflection and more about moving forward. So maybe next time.
Exactly. And reflection is about moving forward. It is about action, but we've got to look back before we can move forward. So in the theme of looking back, I'd love to start with one of my favorite questions to get people reflecting.
Okay.
And that is, I'd like you to fill in the blank, if you would.
Okay.
Recording this podcast was like...
Oh, boy. Was like showing up to have a conversation with one of my good friends on a regular basis.
Oh, I love that. That's so thoughtful. Yeah.
You're my good friend. It's you I'm talking about.
Oh, you're talking about me.
It's
you. I thought it was like showing up with a friend. I'm like, oh, that friend's so lucky.
How fortunate she must be. No, it's you.
Even better. Even better. Well, thank you. So I really love a reflection format that has a structure, and most of the reflection activities in Learning That Lasts have this kind of common structure, and it's the what, gut, so what, now what structure.
What, gut, so what, now what. Okay.
Yeah, so we're going to start with the what question for you, and that is... Thinking back on our last 12 episodes of recording this podcast, what stood out for you?
The first thing that came to mind, without thinking about the words I'm saying, which is something I do quite often, was that it was easy in the sense of having it never felt forced. So our conversations never felt forced. It was never hard to come up with something to talk about. It was never hard to figure out what the format was going to be to talk about. The actual logistics of learning the platform and that kind of stuff. Well, it wasn't hard, but maybe that was a little bit of learning curve. But our actual conversations and the content felt very easy.
I would agree. The conversations between you and I have always felt like that, kind of weirdly so.
Yeah, kind of creepy, almost a little bit.
Yeah. There are very few people that I interact with that I feel so comfortable with and can laugh so easily with, whether we're laughing at each other or together about something.
Right.
Usually,
Right.
usually
Yes.
at each other,
At
but
each other, but also together. Yes.
yeah. The thing that stood out for me too is that people listen.
Yes, I know, right? That is why.
We were recently at a coffee for, badass women,
Mhm.
and somebody told me something I said on the podcast, and like, I'm using that, and I was like, that's delightful. I was a little stunned, but
Yeah.
that kind of made my day.
Um,
That definitely stood out.
it's funny you say that because I got a text last week from somebody who was like, I was listening to your podcast and I don't remember what episode this was, but we had talked about how sometimes when you're working in government, you don't see the fruits of your labor for 5 to 10 years kind of thing. And she
Right.
was like, that resonated with me so much, and I felt so seen in that moment. And I was like, oh my gosh, I love that so much. Yeah, same.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. It's amazing.
So that really leads into the next question, which is, how do you feel about it? So we've, 12 in. How do you feel about it now?
Um well, I feel like an old veteran. I feel like I'm probably never gonna wanna listen to, like, the first 2 episodes because now now that I've listened to quite a few, I can definitely tell that we've gotten a little better. Actually, you've always been phenomenal. I've gotten a little better at not saying the same thing over and over and not laughing for hours and hours, which I still do. So I feel like we've gotten better about it, but I also feel like we have just barely scraped the surface. Like, I genuinely think we could be one of those, like, we're in season 53 because I don't feel like on any level we have talked about all the things that we could talk about or want to talk about. What about you? What do you
Right.
think?
I feel very similar. In fact, so I journal every day,
That's cute.
and that was very kind. That was very kind. And in my cute journaling, um, every day that I journal, I will go back and look 1 month from today. So, like, today's the whatever day it is, 27th. I'll look last month, the 27th, the month before that. And so I read what I have written in the past. And the first in January when we started recording, I literally wrote like, I don't know about this.
That's so appropriate.
Jill and I are kind of
Yeah.
different.
And also, like, I think it took us like 3 tries to get your audio and camera working and my audio and camera working and it working on Riverside, which is the platform that we use. I mean, just those little logistical pieces took probably longer than they should have.
Right. Well, and every time we thought we had it together, then like
Yes.
something would go wrong, or then I encourage you to realign your bookshelf, and,
Oh,
and
yes.
which then it's like everything became something else.
That's right. That's really good feedback though, actually, because nobody tells me normally, like, although now it's all off canter and I can't move it because my camera is very fragile right now. But anyways, nobody normally gives me
Don't
feedback
touch
on
it.
what I'm not touching it on what's behind my head. So that was actually quite helpful. But yeah, yeah,
Nobody
yeah.
gives me feedback about what's behind my head.
We could put that in our quote book.
I think so. I think that has to land there without a doubt. Um, so each of my questions, don't you love this? Like, and this is what I feel like happens when you have really good discussion and reflection with a group, is that one question naturally leads into the
Leads to
other,
another.
and the next
Mhm.
question, yeah, is what have you learned?
um, well, uh, so we're in learning and development, you and I. Um, if this is your first episode, we are in learning and development. Um, and I absolutely acknowledge I do not put myself in places to learn often enough. I am almost always the facilitator or the one guiding or the one teaching or whatever that looks like. So I just don't learn new things as often as I should. And what I really liked about this whole experience was that it was learning. So it was, like we talked about, it was the logistics of like, what's the platform and like, how do you get things hosted and how do you get something on Spotify? And that's just not any part of my brain that I had used. And so that was actually pretty cool to learn something new that just wasn't in my realm. Um, I also learned that I laugh a lot, which is great, but sometimes can be distracting listening to myself. It's always like a little painful to listen to yourself. I think I'm not the only one probably that feels that.
Mhm.
But you and I have just sort of talked about, well, really this is learning because Katrina has taught me these things, but how can we take this and sort of move it in a way that connects greater to the other work that we're doing, and some of the content pieces of content that we're doing. So I'm sort of learning that whole cycle a little bit as well, versus just sort of this started as something that I just always wanted to do a podcast. I just thought it would be fun, and like all of the other things in my life, I just roped Katrina right into it. And so it started in like a very casual, and it still is on many levels, but like just a really casual, fun thing. And we've sort of moved it into like something that's actually linked to the other things we do, and helpful and content and that sort of thing. So that's all been fun learning because we have not put any pressure on it, which in my opinion has been like the best way to do it, I think.
Yeah, I think that led to some learning for me because I tend to come into things very strategically. I want things to have a purpose. I want the time to have a purpose, And so when we started this, I was very patient. I
You
was like,
sure were.
I'm like, okay, so our KPI is laughter.
Yep.
All right, I'll go with that. Our KPI is like making up a word every time. Okay, I'll go with that. And I was kind of holding back, as my journal will tell you. Like
I wish I could read those entries.
you can't.
That's fair.
I was just holding back all of the structural things that I would, if it was just mine, right?
Mhm, yeah.
And one of the things that really happened for me is I got to see you kind of evolve as we recorded. We were both learning the platform. We were
Mhm.
both learning how to get it out there into the world. And I was learning really like who is Jill and how does Jill
Right.
operate? you know, in a more technical, hands-on way. Um, and I think, if we were to do an episode on change management, which we could definitely do in our future,
Yeah, we
it was a
could.
good example of that like you had to see the value
Yeah.
of kind of morphing it, and we kind of had to find our place together, because I think if I had come in and said, okay, we're going to do topics that are related to leadership and we're going to make them this long and this is the structure we're going to have, it wouldn't have been fun.
Right.
It wouldn't have been authentic.
Right.
We had to kind of get there together, and for me that's a big, probably a big life lesson. It's kind of what we teach leaders and managers, like, take a moment and like watch,
Oh, right,
take
and
that
see what's gonna
strategic
happen.
pause. Yeah, like see what's going to happen, see like what the world holds and who's doing what around you before
Right.
you thrust your ideas on everybody. So
But I do think that's one of the things actually that makes us great together because, I'm very much ready, fire, aim. And you're very much ready, aim, fire. And so I have a tendency to just go and assume that it's going to work out and work into the strategy. And it generally does. But you are
mhm.
very much more like, yeah, yeah, let's figure out the strategy and then we'll get it off the ground. And it generally does get off the ground. So I think that's something that
Yeah.
the 2 of us complement each other really well on, is I'm very much the activator and you're very much strategic, and when we when we can really lean on each other versus the pushback, which we've never, I don't think, ever given each other pushback. Like,
Not yet.
that's not yet, not yet. Well, it's because you give me pushback and I'm like, okay, whatever you say. Yeah, we'll just do that.
Yeah.
But anyways, I think that makes this, and that this podcast is a great example of that, because I think you were like, all right, let's see what happens. And then, it did sort of morph into probably where you would have started anyways.
Maybe, but maybe not. I think I value and understand the value that other people see in making it lighter and making it, sometimes where it's just fun.
Right. Right.
I and to be perfectly blunt, my version of fun is not your version of fun, and like at all.
At all. Case in point, the pencil story.
We weren't even going to talk about the pencils today. I was leaving that alone, but
Nope.
for those of you who are curious, I may have spent Saturday driving around the greater Sacramento area to bookstores for Independent Bookstore Day to find the limited edition Blackwing pencils for Independent Bookstore Day. And it may have taken me, for those of you who are familiar with Sacramento area, may have taken me to Davis, which on a Saturday is not the most comfortable drive. But they're beautiful pencils and they're special edition. And yes, Jill was laughing that I even have a favorite
pencil company.
Yeah,
she started by saying, the pencil company that I like. And I was like, you lost me. Like, and I'm gone. Anyways, bringing that back to what we were talking about, yes, I think our versions of fun are different, but there's similarities too.
Yeah, well, and I think that's one of the nice things about the evolution of the podcast as well, is that it does, we do have an audience. We appreciate all of you, and our audience listens for different reasons.
Yeah.
Different reasons than you and I both, which is kind of delightful.
It is delightful.
Okay, so I have the big question. This is the biggie.
All right, I'm so ready.
Yeah. This is very much a Katrina question too.
Oh boy. Okay. I'm actually a little nervous. What are you going to say?
Oh, I love it.
Got a little scared.
Well, so all of the questions we've asked so far have kind of been looking back. So this question we look forward now. So this is that action piece that really makes reflection. I define it as like not rumination, rumination or nostalgia. We're just going over stuff, telling stories.
Right. Okay.
But now we're going to move it to some action. So what do you see us doing differently for season 2?
Well, I'm going to share some behind the scenes information that maybe I should not share at this moment, but we didn't have a plan for any topic of any of these episodes that we did before about 10 minutes before the episode. That is not an exaggeration. I am not trying to make it sound like we are super laid back. We legitimately would put time on our calendar. We would log in together and then we would say, what do you want to talk about today? Now, I will say, on some level, I loved it because it was kind of like, well, what's on the top of your head? Like, what's on the top of your mind? And that's sort of how the whole episode about what is a book? What does it mean? How do you write a book? Just literally kind of came to me. And I'm like, let's do it. So with that said, I think season 2, it would probably be a good idea for us to plan out little more in advance what topics we're going to talk about when we're going to talk about them. And one of the reasons is because we're going to do some interviews next time. And so we're going to have those scheduled and we're going to have to be a little more planful. That's the first thing that came to my mind. What comes to your mind?
Well, I first just have to say that I love that all those words that just came out of your mouth were kind of mine.
See? We're like the same people, just different.
It just took you longer to get there.
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
yay.
totally, totally.
Yeah, we did have a list of like we had brainstormed a list, but
Mhm.
it wasn't really very tidy. And I think that you're 100% right that we're going to have a schedule. We're going to we have a schedule. Like that is one thing that we've done well. That like
Right.
every other week we record.
Yep.
And for whatever reason, like we've really stuck to that.
Yeah. Yeah.
We've been able to honor that. Definitely guests and, which is gonna
Mhm.
take a little bit more coordination on our part, definitely having
Mhm.
a schedule, definitely, like, some logistical things that have to be in place in order to let somebody know how to join us and all of that.
We'll need to get on that because I don't know how to do
Exactly.
that. Yes.
And I'm thinking that, I have this vision of kind of one topic that's I don't want to say the word serious, but a little bit more structured
Mhm.
around learning and development, leadership, organizational development, kind of in that niche.
Yeah.
And then maybe an episode that's a little lighter, a
Right.
little like pausey that we look at, some of the things that we put on our original brainstorm list, like, you know, being a mom
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
one of my favorite topics that we have not discussed because I'm not sure how to do this without making people wary of ever contacting us again, is like when people ask you if they can pick your brain and like free labor that
Yes. Yes.
often happens in our
Right.
world.
Right.
I'm looking at those topics going,
Yeah.
those will be good. So structure, I think that's what season 2 is going to bring.
Mhm.
I hope it still brings laughter. Definitely.
Definitely. That's a
Definitely.
non-negotiable. Because one thing
Yeah.
I wanted to make sure, I mean, with running a business, there's a lot of things you have to do, right? Like I have to check my P&Ls every so often. I have to do payroll. I have to do bank deposits. I didn't want one more thing that I had to do, right? I really just
Right.
wanted this to be an enjoyable endeavor, and we've made it that. And so even as we put more structure around it, now it really has the foundation of like, this is not one more thing we have to do. I don't look at my calendar and think, oh God, I got a podcast today. I think like, yay, it's podcast day. Um, and we've done a good job keeping it just light and enjoyable for us as well. So it doesn't become one more thing we have to do. And hopefully for
Right.
our listeners as well, doesn't become one more thing they have to do.
Or one more thing they decide not to do.
Or
That's my
one more
worry,
thing that, yeah,
right? Like
exactly.
one more thing I can cross off my list. Like, please no. Like
Yeah.
we're glad you listened.
Yeah. Yeah.
And and with that too, I think it might be fun to get some listener feedback. What
Mhm.
topics do
Yeah.
people want us to talk about? What perspectives would be interesting for other people to hear? Um, and and I just have to say too, I do have that same feeling you do that I look forward to, I look forward to my Jill time.
Mm.
You
Yeah,
know,
my
I
Katrina
know,
time. Yeah.
yeah, every 2 weeks we're gonna spend 30 minutes before laughing
Yeah,
nonstop. And
absolutely.
I hope that doesn't change.
I hope so
So
too.
yeah, because it in the beginning, it was 30 minutes of, like, profanities
Yeah,
as things didn't work.
that's absolutely correct.
So if we could get 30 minutes of laughter
Yeah.
and, all the pieces and parts, like, work beautifully, that would be lovely. And then, 30 minutes of recording or so, and 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 then people can enjoy it. That's the
Yeah.
goal, right? That's the goal.
That's the goal. It's
Yeah.
the goal for us to enjoy it, for them to enjoy it, for it to hopefully occasionally make people think and maybe give them nuggets of things that they hadn't thought about in a in that way, and just to be enjoyable, an enjoyable time when there's a lot of non-enjoyable media out there. So hopefully we're one of the more enjoyable pieces of media.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right, so I'm gonna end
Okay.
with one of my favorite activities.
Oh, I can't wait.
Although, do you notice that I say that with every activity? I realize I
You
do.
do say that a lot, but I say that I have a lot of favorite things too, so I'm never gonna that's fair. You can have a
Yeah.
lot of favorite things.
Right, like, how many is too many? Like,
Not
and who made up that rule? So, but
exactly. I am not gatekeeping your favorite activities. You decide that. Absolutely.
why, thank you. Thank you very much.
And you decide your favorite pencils.
Yes. Thank you. They are seriously best pencil ever. Best pencil ever,
I
but
believe you.
I'm gonna go on a national road trip just to collect them,
Yeah, do you think you
just
could
for
become
fun.
like a pencil influencer? Like should we look at some sponsorships for you?
Today is not brought to you by Blackwing Pencil,
But it
but
could be in the future.
it could be in the future.
There you go.
Okay, there's somebody else out there who likes Blackwing pencils, I have no doubt. I know there
I'm
are probably
sure.
many people saying, "I don't even know what that is," but
Yes. We won't talk about those people though.
they are a thriving company, so I'm not alone.
I wonder if they need any leadership development.
Oh, that oh,
Do they have
straight
trainers? Train the
trade for
trainers?
pencils? I'm sure they do. Like, who doesn't,
We really
right?
should connect with this company.
All right, anybody have a Blackwing pencil connection? We would
Yeah,
love to know it.
we
We
would
would
love
love
it.
to know it. All right. So the activity I want to end with, the questions I want to end with, these are from some really interesting research that they had managers journal over a
Okay.
period of time, and then they coded that journaling to find the, what were the topics that managers were most often journaling about, and then they scaled it somehow. That may not be the right word. But anyway, they determined who were the most effective managers and
Oh,
what were they
journaling
journaling about?
about? Oh, this is
Yeah.
good. Okay.
Yeah, this is good. And this is something that I include in emerging leader programs, and I talk about probably as much, if not more, than pencils. Um,
I don't believe that, but okay.
and so the first thing is, what surprised you
Mm.
about the podcast? What surprised you?
That people listened. I mean, that was I
Me too.
know, as silly as it is, that was not even our goal. So the fact that people are listening, like, that's surprising in a delightful way.
Yeah, I would agree with that one as well. The next one is it's a very strong word, and I think it's
Oh,
something that we often shy away from. Where
okay.
do you think we failed with the podcast?
Oh. Where did we fail? I hate the
I
word fail. You
I
know
know, I do
I hate the
too.
word fail.
It's really strong, and it's not a word we normally use, but I love
Mhm.
that it showed up in this research. So I have mine.
Okay.
I, I failed to listen early on enough, like to listen to our recordings enough to know that
Oh.
my mic was making this really weird noise. And once I discovered it, like, and I don't even know how many episodes in it was, realized I had like I had an issue with my mic that we were able to resolve, but it required like new equipment. Um, but I consider that a failure, because had I listened, I would have known it.
I don't know what that says about me that I listened to all of the episodes and I don't remember your mic having any issues. So I don't
Well,
know what is that. So I failed in not being observant enough when I was listening to our episodes. How's that?
yeah, everybody's going to go back to episode 1 now. But I think what happened is, if you listened to the edited version, the version we put out in the world, it it got corrected, but I didn't realize I was correcting it. Like, I wasn't which is, I know that sounds weird, but like, we were correcting the sound just as like a step. not
Oh, I see
before
what
we
you mean.
listen to it. Yeah.
Yes, okay, I see
Yeah.
what you mean. We
So
were scrubbing the audio.
we
I see. We didn't need to scrub the
right.
audio maybe. Okay, okay,
Right, exactly. It could have
okay,
saved us a step.
okay,
So that's our failure. That's our
okay,
failure. And I
okay.
don't think failure has to be like this big, like, oh my gosh, I'm bankrupt and my family left me.
That is one
Just
type
like
of failure.
that is definitely. But imagine the manager who would just take the time to go, hey, I failed to say hello to that
Mm,
person, or I
yeah,
failed to give them the feedback they needed. So it can be small failures.
that's true.
Um, and the word is hard, but I think it's important. Okay, last one.
Okay,
Last one.
okay.
What frustrated you?
Oh. Well, I mean, the fact that this is probably one of the very first times we've recorded where my audio and video and headphones have worked from the minute we logged on until this minute right now. That's been a little frustrating. And the more frustrating piece is like I'm on Teams and Zoom all day long every day. Not really, but a decent amount, and my audio and my text fine for that, and so it would be like we'd get onto this platform and all of a sudden it was like we'd never done any virtual meeting ever before. We're like, what's that? I can't hear you. Can you hear me? It's like but
Yeah.
so I guess that was frustrating, but other than that, this was
Yeah.
not a frustrating activity for me. Thankfully.
No, okay, so it was frustrating for me in the beginning, like not feeling like I had structure that I wanted and like I wasn't sure where we were going with things.
Mm.
But I got over that. Like I got over myself.
Yeah.
And I think it was it has been a really positive experience, and it is really rewarding to hear from people who
Yeah.
listen and use things. So I'm appreciative of that. And
Yeah.
it's been a it's been a fun first season.
I agree. A plus for fun, B for organization, but we're going up. We're getting up.
Absolutely, absolutely. One thing that I was told last week that I loved is someone said, I've seen it improve. I can see it
Oh, I
changing
love
over
that.
time.
God, whoever that
Yeah,
was really knows the way to your heart, don't they?
uh, no doubt. No doubt.
They could not have said anything that would make your heart sing more than that. I love
Well,
that because
maybe I have a pencil.
oh, there you go. I think we've improved too. Like I said a few minutes ago. I did go back and listen to this was maybe like 3 or 4 weeks ago. Listen to the first episode and I'm like, "Oh yeah, no, won't be doing that again." Like it was great. I'm glad we did it. We got it off the ground, but we have improved.
Mhm.
So I love that. I love that that person called us out.
Yeah,
And we'll improve
absolutely,
even more.
absolutely.
Season
We
2.
will,
Big things are coming.
and I yes, and I wanna have some imperfection in it
Yeah.
because that just shows that we're human.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. It shows we're human and
Yeah,
it shows that we're real and this isn't AI. You and I are really having
right.
these conversations just like this.
Exactly. Exactly. Well, and we can go all the way back to something you said in the beginning today that, as learning and development professionals, we don't always put ourselves in places of learning.
Yeah.
And I think we need to know the discomfort. I think we
Yep.
need to be familiar with that feeling to be effective at what we do.
Yeah. I totally agree. I totally agree. So thank you, friend. Thank you for joining
And
my wild idea
you're
and putting
welcome.
up with me and just trying to deal with me. And I hope that you bought yourself more pencils as consolation of having to kick off this podcast with me. I owe you a pack of pencils.
No, that's funny. No consolation needed. It's been delightful. I have enjoyed almost every minute.
At least 98% of the minutes.
And like, I mean, it just has to be said that I think one of the great things, one of the great dynamics about you and I working together is that we both can be very honest with each other, and I think
Absolutely.
that's what helps keep it working.
That's what makes us tick.
Absolutely.
Here's to season
Oh,
2.
all right. Thanks, friends. We'll see you
Bye.